80% of business leaders and the value of GenAI is going to go toward competitive advantage in the next 18 months. 60% are lacking confidence in their data AI readiness to take advantage of this value. 51% are not satisfied with the value they're getting currently from their GenAI projects. There's a lot of dangers and red flags with GenAI in marketing right now.
We're trying to transform the future with AI, but we're not giving enough tools to our staff. Since all of roles are evolving, CMO role may be removed from the C-suite. Do you agree with that?
You don't look at the title, you look at marketing, the practice. There's a case that can be made that CMOs are evolving into the CRO role because of their impact on revenue growth. The consumer is more knowledgeable than ever from either B2B or B2C, making vendor shortlists off of content.
With roles changing, market segment changing, trends changing, technology is changing, definition of success is changing as well. How success should be measured now.
But we are seeing the one metric that rules them all, and that's revenue growth. Marketing with these new technologies and with savvy, knowledgeable customer is closer to the sale than ever before.
Revenue growth, NRR, and like customer retention, such things.
The big one to revenue growth is LTV and CLV, right? LTV is a number that, and CLV are the numbers that LOBs, CEOs, board of directors, they look at this number quarterly to help them make decisions.
But AI is global change and data can be processed anywhere. So privacy is at risk on these factors.
It's a funny thing about consumer privacy, and it doesn't appear to be as important to the consumer, especially in newer generations.
Silicon Valley native, an award-winning journalist with over 25 years of experience including global firms such as IDG, Informa, TechTarget, and Forrester Research. Let's welcome our today's guest, Tom Kaneshige. Currently as a Chief Content Officer at CMO Council, Tom is creating all forms of digital thought leadership content that helps chief marketers, business leaders, as well as growth and revenue officers succeed in their rapidly evolving roles. Hey Tom, welcome.
Hi, Neff.
We want to talk about like how AI is reshaping the C-suite roles. There are a lot of conversations about how business strategy is being redefined. Technology is influencing it a lot, and even goals are very aggressive, competitive market. So, how do you see the C roles are shifting lately?
That's a good question. So it varies from company to company and industry to industry. And there's a lot of pressure on CMOs from the C-suite to leverage AI, to showcase AI and what AI can do for the business and how AI can drive revenue. So that's the big outcome. Such a grandiose plan that a lot of times CMOs are struggling here, and that's having a negative effect of their relationships in the C-suite. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay. So I have heard some news, CMO in specific, like the since all of roles are evolving, CMO role may be removed from the C-suite. Do you agree with that?
You know, you're seeing big companies doing away with the CMO title. You're seeing a number of voices now in the C-suite, from chief customer experience officer, chief revenue officer. There's a case that can be made that CMOs are evolving into the CRO role because of their impact on revenue growth, or their potential impact on revenue growth. But I would argue that you don't look at the title, you look at marketing, the practice. And I think it's more important than ever. And it's more important than ever because of the consumer is more knowledgeable than ever, is from either B2B or B2C, making vendor shortlists off of content. The brands don't control or have a great influence on the customer buyer journey because they don't control it anymore, right? They don't dictate the conversation. So I would think marketing right now is more important than ever to get in front of the consumer or customer at their moment of need, and that can be
Yeah.
throughout the customer journey. So yeah.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. I think like it's outcome that is more important, not the title. And all roles are becoming fractional to just with the mindset to break silos anymore. And like working hand to hand. Of course, there will be overlap. There might be frictions through this shift, uh, especially in the boardroom with different roles. But eventually, it is happening from outside in approach, so that like it's more customer focused, it's more aligned, and teams can work together if it happens. And we are always using an example, like if leadership doesn't engage with the change within the company, then the change doesn't get successful, right? So I mean, it's not just by saying and forcing change that can happen. It's like uh, preach what you follow. So I think that's the good example, that if C-suite starts to merge roles a little bit like this, collaboration can also go downstream across different teams, and the message goes very strong in this way. But the goal again is like customer experience and like having like generating business, generating leads, and scale on the business results.
Yeah, I mean that's part of the challenge, is because who owns the customer experience now, right? Does the CMO, does marketing, does customer service, does the sales, does LOBs? So it's become a lot more voices are here, and they're all trying to um, get in front of the customer, but it's very disjointed because of it's very fragmented in terms of who owns the customer experience these days.
Yeah. Customer experience, either way or the other, like it's a fractional responsibility across all roles. Yeah. But most roles, since like are assigned to a team or a group or a person, that's the mindset. Like we still expect somebody to own customer experience, but again, like if everybody owns, nobody owns. So
Yep.
yeah, there has to be some good structure and governance in place, um, so that like everyone understands how my role influences business customers, even if I don't have direct interaction with the customer. So that needs to happen on the clarity side, and that it can happen inside only, from
And
top to bottom.
the reflection of that is in the data, right? I mean, how many years have we been still struggling with data silos throughout the enterprise, customer data silos, right? So
Yeah. So, in order to get further towards this change within the organization and AI into the picture, any recommendation like how companies can blend some of these strategies to make team more efficient, to make processes more efficient, and to even get better clarity on what's going on to the outcome side?
I mean, that's a loaded question, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, let's lay down the groundwork first, right? So we did a study and recently and found that 80% of business leaders, and beyond marketers, 80% of business leaders felt that um, the value of Gen AI, just Gen AI, is going to go toward competitive advantage in the next 18 months. In other words, is going to provide a competitive advantage in the next 18 months. That's a huge endorsement of what the expectation is
Okay.
for Gen AI, right? Yet we found that 60% um, have are lacking confidence in their data AI readiness to take advantage of this value. And worse, 51% are not satisfied with the value they're getting currently, that is currently from their Gen AI projects. And you have this idea that there's going to be a value spike, and it's going to be critical. Yet you have a number of companies not getting value out of it, and that's actually reflected in a Gartner Gartner reports recently. So Gartner is saying um, uh, they're predicting a 60% failure rate for Gen AI because of a lack, or mostly because of a lack of data AI readiness. And they're also seeing Gen AI. They also put Gen AI uh, uh, on the slope toward the trough of disillusionment on their hype cycle. So there's a lot of dangers and red flags with Gen AI in marketing right now.
You are on the spot here, Tom. Like, I have a data point, a study for conducted within this year by Thomson Reuters. It reveals that 85% of executives believe AI will have a transformational impact, which we all agree with. But only 34% of all uh, businesses have equipped their employees with AI tools. So yeah, it's an eye opener. I mean, we're trying to transform the future with AI, but we're not giving enough tools to
Well,
our staff.
I think that the two reasons for a lack of readiness and why there's a prediction of a high failure rate. The first one is data AI readiness, right? So just Gen AI in particular, it needs to be able to interrogate the right data to get the right answers. And a lot of that data is unstructured data. And can it interrogate that data? And data is a kind of a living thing, so it's always being modified and changed. And are the people that are modifying and changing that data, are they aware that Gen AI is interrogating this data to get the right answers, right? So you have this data AI readiness problem, and it's been well documented. I think the one that hasn't been as well documented and should be is culture AI readiness, because we're talking about as we move
Ethics and culture, yeah.
ethics and culture and skills, and uh, are you are you are you is AI enhancing your job, or do you feel threatened by AI, right? And and I think as Gen AI specifically is moving from um, very kind of efficiency processes like routing leads, or creating kind of content, doing some of these optimizing like the marketing spend. As it moves from those kind of things, which is basically uh, uh, low hanging fruit stuff, as they move towards Gen AI being a strategic partner, a creative partner, right? Where it's allowing you to do things that you've never done before,
Yeah,
and things that you couldn't even throw more bodies at to be able to do, right? As it's allowing you to better assess your competitors' content, and being able to find white space, and being able to um, uh, um, even find messaging um, that will work better than what you're doing now, right? So there's this tremendous opportunity for it to be a creative partner. Things like, okay, I can do, you know, if I'm going to do a video or a commercial, rather than testing 10 concepts and then picking one and then spending whatever it is to make it, instead I'm going to use AI to create 10 commercials and test those. So instead of testing concepts, you're testing commercials, right? So then you have much uh you have a greater assurance that the one that actually does get picked is going to do a lot better, right? Better outcomes, right? So
yeah,
this kind of things that AI can do, but it requires um uh marketers to reimagine their processes.
true. It's like, see it as an ally, instead of enemy. So I mean, like, if we don't go too far back, just like last 20-25 years, when internet came in, like there were a lot of threat of taking jobs and risk and privacy and things like that, but it was here to stay. Similarly, like when cloud concept picked up, a lot of companies were resisting to move their data outside their on-prem infrastructure. They were not very comfortable leaving their own data centers and security. But now, like a lot of companies are trusting cloud in a hybrid way. But again, like cloud is growing as well. Similarly, AI, I mean, it's going to help us. I also wrote something about like how can we ally with AI. Like it's not here to take all the jobs, but of course if you're not ready to learn with it, everything gets outdated at some point. So we should look at like what can we automate, what can we leave on the technology, and focus on the human factor in our role so we can more relatable to our outcome and the impact that we make on customers.
So I'm going to give you a hot take here now. I'm a I'm not a fan of the take that um, you know AI is going to allow employees to rise in value, right? In other words, they're going to take off the mundane stuff and they're going to become um, do more valuable things,
Uh-huh.
or this idea that you can up your skill set and uh, be even in a better position in terms of your career, right?
Yeah.
I hear this all the time. You've heard this all the time, right?
Yep.
I was a journalist for many
Okay.
years.
Wow.
And that was the same thing that they were saying about journalists, right? It's going to help you. It's going to, uh, you know, by having your content online, you're going to get more readers, and your position is going to be better, and these things. It's going to take away some of the mundane tasks, right, that you have to do, um, and that there's going to be a place for you in the new order, I should say. But that didn't happen, right? There's going to be job losses here, and it's going to be very difficult for a lot of people.
the jobs the jobs that are too like mechanical in nature, too repeatable in nature, of course, there has to be some way replacing such kind of human force with this technology. AI is gonna operationalize a lot of stuff. Of course, it processes huge amount of data in fraction of minutes, seconds. So uh, that is very helpful. I mean, humanly, like not possible to process that amount of data like in spreadsheets or even in like databases or visualization reports, but AI can just do it like behind the scene and give you very ready to consume information, ready to make decisions. So that level of tasks and jobs, of course, will be moved over. But there are some ethical practices. um, I was like just before this conversation, I was looking at some ethical side of the AI, uh, that like some regulations in the European countries have been regulated that are more ethics AI friendly, and even businesses have uh, implemented AI models in such a way on customer care centers, and the results are showing like it's improving. The ethical, sentimental, emotional aspect of AI is also improving over time. So that was the factor which was being sold as like, hey, that element is not going to take over by AI. But now, looking at that news, like AI sentiments are improving very fast. So as you're saying, like jobs will be taken away, but we still have to find out our way forward.
I ran across. I was looking for this article that I ran across today about. Um, I'm probably gonna butcher it here, so don't quote me here. But that AI was being used to, or was being looked at to um, I think it was present a legal argument like a lawyer would to the Supreme Court. I think that was it, but it didn't happen, of course. But it was tested. It was looked at to see if it could do it, and it did. It would have done an amazing job, according to this one. So when you think about, you know, when you say, okay, it's for the menial jobs, I don't know, right? I mean, radiologists were the first threatened by AI in medical, right? As being able to look at X-rays and this kind of thing. So it's just it's a little I mean, big picture stuff. It's you don't know where it's going to disintermediate, right?
Still have to wait and watch and be prepared. Yeah. So you mentioned about experimentation, like with AI, we can run more tests and we can check on commercials and content, and of course with AI, with hyper personalization, we can do it at scale. But do you think like it will divide the audience to experiment with? Let's say like we're only going to run those experiments and those tests on personalization front with our audience in real world, right? They're going to see and react on it. So let's assume like there are 10,000 viewers of our content. Okay, if we divide those 10,000 with 10 different experiments, means like not all 10,000 are looking at that each version, right? So the sample size is reduced. Is it, I mean, of course we can run variety of tests in parallel and analyze it faster, but are we getting enough data to make those decisions? I mean, or we still have to run longer in that case to get good enough amount of data to analyze the information more reliably. So like how mature we are in this AI, even to increase demand or increase our audience uh, for our content consumption.
I think there's still a ways to go, right? As our data AI readiness report showed, right? I mean, there's a lot of dangers, a lot of pitfalls there. So yeah, I would agree with you.
What is that report you're referring to? I mean, you want to discuss more about it, like for better insights, some big takeaways?
Sure. Well,
I mean, sounds like very interesting report. I would like to get a copy of it. I mean, there are a lot of good
sure.
information you're referring to. So I believe if you can share that with our audience, it'll be a good information to learn from as well.
Sure. I'll do that. Well, we can do that at the end here, but let me.
That's fine. I mean, it's okay. But again, like it is sounding very interesting. So I would definitely like to go through that. So
So
yeah,
the title of the report is "The Pathway to Gen AI Competitive Advantage,"
okay,
and the question we ask is your data prepared to unlock Gen AI's business value?
interesting.
And yeah,
Yeah, if you throw a link offline, yeah, I'll add to this for reference. Yeah. Okay. So a report by McKinsey says 76% of consumers feel frustrated when personalization is absent. And that's exactly what I was getting to. Like when the sample size is reduced, we may not rely on the experiments. Like if customers are frustrated, but it's only like tenth of a total audience. Usually we call it A/B testing in 50-50 audience, right? We split that. Like if we want to say like 10 parallel tests, then we are dividing, or we may have to like run tests to mixed audience. And on the other side, 86% express concern about data privacy. Let's talk about privacy now. Another, the regulation in the European Union I was referring to, that's passed already in 2024. According to that, like we can trademark our biometrics so that like we are protected from public use of our data biometric. We are like CCTV cameras all over the places, and they are so sharp, so like pixel perfect, that like they can very well understand us, our emotions, our reactions, even eyeballs. So, and we can protect that through those regulations, but it's on very few countries. But AI is global change, and data can be processed anywhere else but those countries
Yep.
to stay away from the regulations. So privacy is at risk on this factor. So any thoughts on that?
I'm going to give you another hot take, Nav. I've covered this, and I've covered this. I've been at the crossroads of technology and business for a very, very long time. I don't want to date
Mm,
myself, a very long time. And it's a funny thing about consumer privacy, um, in that there's a lot of hand wringing about consumer privacy, but when you get down to it, it's it doesn't appear to be as important to the consumer, and it doesn't appear to be as important to the consumer, especially in newer generations, right? Younger generations, because we've done studies where consumers are willing to give up an enormous amount of their information for 10% discount on a product or something that they want, right?
yeah.
And you hear about these big data breaches um, that make the news, but it goes away. The brand, of course, suffers. The brand gets destroyed. But um, for the consumers that weren't touched by it, it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't change their buying behavior, right? They're not looking at what are you doing with my privacy before I do business with you or something like that. Um, but on the back end, if they lose consumer trust, if the brand loses consumer trust because they've got a breach or something like that's going to impact it. But in terms of uh, being proactive to it versus reactive to it, it doesn't seem to. There seems to be a lot more hand wringing about it than what's actually happening in terms of consumer behavior.
You're right. I have a teenager, and I mean, he doesn't think to accept any like
Yep.
cookie message or even like sign up for a little discount promo he sees on the social media or anywhere. Like he's just ready to jump in without even thinking like where it's going and what's gonna happen. But of course, even back in my mind, I also realized that what is that risk? It's just like name and age and like yeah, things like that. But we never know at scale what's gonna happen, what's going around with that data. It's just like name and age
Right.
and email and there are and email addresses are nothing to do with like over like sensitivity. It's just an email address, right? So and we have every one of us have like multiple email addresses, so it's just we can shut it down anytime, right? So yeah, again, like there are some like gray areas around it. I cannot speak to detail on each of those, but yeah, it's a trade-off. As you are saying, like yeah, consumers, we think at from a business perspective and regulations perspective that we are liable to handling consumers' private data, but consumers are not even bothering about it.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So uh, but at some point, like since there are regulations and there are breaches and there are penalties on this front, like CCPA in California, GDPR, and there are big penalties. And like form Bill 96 has been just regulated in Montreal, Quebec, and it's all about privacy and how to market citizens of these regions. So, and there are penalties. So businesses still have to comply with that, even if like consumers on the other side are not worried about
Yep.
it. So, and digital platforms, the ecosystem to protect that private information of users has to be ready for that. to justify, to prove, and still like anonymously use that for improving on their experiences. Do you think like the digital ecosystem is mature enough to handle all this data carefully and still show that relevant experience? As I mentioned, like by McKinsey, 76% of consumers feel frustrated when personalization is absent. So we are talking about personalization and privacy in a mixed form right now. So while keeping care of private data and delivering personalized experience at scale, uh, is the digital ecosystem ready for companies based on your researches and studies conducted?
So CMO Council did a series of reports on the CMO's relationship with the CFO, with the sales, and we also did one with the CISO. Um, and short answer is so the challenge here is that these relationships are have been problematic, right, for years, and now there's a collision happening. Well, there have always been some collisions, but this is a major collision here. And um, is that relationship? Do they do enough with that relationship that they can collaborate effectively? Um, the short answer to that is for most, no, they haven't yet, right? And that's going to that's going to cause some problems. So um, the other the other the other problem is that uh, it comes down to a matter of speed. So marketing operates at a different speed than the rest of the enterprise, and um, not that they take shortcuts, but a lot of times their timeline doesn't is not compatible with the CIO's timeline or the CISO's timeline, right? A lot of
Because
work is
marketing is forward looking, always have
absolutely,
to,
they have to
yeah,
be, right?
yeah.
Especially when they have a revenue growth mandate, right? And which many of them do now. So, um, you know, when you're talking about, say, like for example, personalization, right? When do you get even more personalized? When do you move toward hyper personalization, right? When do your uh, customer segmentations grow from, I don't know, a dozen to 200, right? So it's this kind of thing that's putting a lot of pressure on them.
Businesses, industry, market, even roles are evolving. There's so much happening in this shift over the last few years, especially since Gen AI got into the center of everything. So, but like we are still measuring success in the traditional way. I would not say like traditional as in 50 years old metrics, but again, like every year we have same dashboards that we review and review on performance metrics, right? And with roles changing, market segment changing, trends changing, technology is changing, like definition of success is changing as well, right? So how do you feel like how success should be measured now? I mean, anything has to change. If yes, then what has to be the starting point for that?
Oh man, that's another loaded question. So
I'm sorry.
attribution has been well, you know how the whole history of attribution comes about, right? No attribution to some attribution to now currently, attribution doesn't really reflect what marketing does.
Attribution. Okay.
So, but we are seeing the one metric that rules them all, and that's revenue growth. Um, it makes sense because marketing with these new technologies and with the savvy, knowledgeable customer is closer to uh, the sale than ever before, right? And that's why they have these revenue growth mandates. So um, so yeah, that's the KPI, like it or not. That's the KPI that the C-suite has put on and the board of directors have put on the marketer, and they have to deliver that. So
revenue growth, NRR, and like customer retention, such things.
So the big one, I should have added this one. So the big one to revenue growth is LTV, um,
Lifetime.
and CLV, right? So
Mhm.
CLV is to individual customer, LTV is to aggregate, right? So LTV is a number that and CLV are the numbers that LOBs, CEOs, um, uh, board of directors, they look at this number quarterly to help them make decisions, strategic decisions to move forward. It is their number, and it has traditionally been a marketer's number. But LTV today is not. It's not. Uh, um, it's not as simple as it was. It's not as simple of a formula as it was back then, right? There's a lot of complexities to it. Um, but they need it. The marketers need to take that number and to carry it.
Usually used to be like profit and loss only, but now like there are a lot of other parameters needs to be measured. I would also add to it by saying, since like trust has been in the prime line as well, considering data privacy with AI uh, and regulations, uh, like there should be some way to measure trust level as well among your customers.
Yeah, LTV can be can look at. I mean, part of LTV is a CX, right? The customer experience, and part of
Yes,
CX is trust and loyalty.
trust. Yeah.
And with Gen AI specifically, trust is huge, right?
Mhm.
Trust is big for the employees, whether you're using it internally or externally facing, to as part of the customer experience, right? If you don't get these things right, I mean, there's no MVPs here. There's no minimum viable product type thing. You have to come out of the gate correctly, because if you don't, it'll erode trust quickly. And if it erodes trust quickly, your other bigger AI plans are, going to be stuck in pilot or going to be hard to get off the ground. Trust is critical, right? And just even in a marketing sense, if you're using Gen AI in marketing, if your marketing team is using it and it's coming up, it's not able to interrogate the right data and it comes up with the wrong answers, you
Yeah,
can't trust it, right? You can't trust it, and you're going to resist it, right?
exactly.
So it's a big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. Like garbage in, garbage out. So feed the right data and then be data driven. Yeah.
Which makes the stat that we found in our report that 51% are of business leaders are not satisfied with the value they're getting from their current Gen AI projects. That's a problem.
Because of visibility of the right results, or the trust.
It could run the gamut, but the fact that they're not producing enough value is is
Enough value. Okay.
is trust. Is going to be a trust problem for down the road. But
Uh-huh.
but it could be many different reasons why it's not. They didn't get the value. Maybe they were asking for too much initially. Could be they didn't have the data necessary for it to interrogate, which is probably the case in many reasons. Or they ran into some kind of change management resistance from the employees. Uh, so a lot of times it either fails to deliver value or it gets stuck in pilot mode. So that's
Yeah. Pilots are taking longer than ever.
yeah.
It's
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
all right. Thank you, Tom. Great insights.
Great.
Very good conversation. Thank you very much for your time.
Sure. All right. Thanks, Nav.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I truly appreciate your time and attention. If something in this episode sparked a new idea, shifted your thinking, or even just made you nod along, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We are just getting started. We might have made mistakes. I promise we will improve. In every episode, I'm going to dive deeper into such conversations that impact us. And hey, if you're vibing with what we are building here, share it with someone you trust. That's how good ideas spread. Until next time, think holistic, think economics, think fast, and keep leading forward.